Hey Defenders, welcome back to the channel. We got some news things to go over. One of those things is it's snowing finally here in Minnesota, and that means for the outside portion of our training and everything, it's going to probably slow down a little bit, but we're still going to record outside too and get some firearm videos for you. And past that though, we have some fraud things that are being uncovered in Minnesota. Who would have thought there's fraud in Minnesota? More things that are getting uncovered. But past that, hey, don't forget, this is Black Friday this week, and you need to do your Christmas shopping and get it done. Well, I got a gift for you guys that's going to be perfect for underneath that Christmas tree. GuardTech Plus cleaning kits, okay? Once these things are gone, they're gone. We've only got like 75 or so left of these things. So, yeah, we just sold a whole bunch more, which is awesome. Glad you guys are getting in there, and hey, it's supporting the channel, and you're getting a good product underneath your tree to help keep your firearms clean. And if you're a vet, I want you to remember what your staff sergeant said to you when you went through basic about keeping your firearm clean, right? Get that thing mission ready. So get your GuardTech Plus cleaning kits. It's flat shipping on these things to all lower 50 states, and we're only $9.50 for that flat shipping. It'll ship anywhere in those lower 48, and so all that's built into the price of these things too. So link in the description below. GuardTech Plus cleaning kits. This will solve a bunch of your Christmas shopping off the bat. All right, so let's talk fraud happening in Minnesota. Well, we just had an activist judge here in Minnesota, Judge West, overturn a guilty verdict by somebody perpetuating the Medicaid overbilling scam. That's part of the issue that's happening with Minnesota funding terrorism. Now, this person stole $7.2 million in a huge overbilling scam to Medicaid in the PCA scandal, PCA being personal care assistant. And let's take a look at what's coming out of that right now.
At the August trial for Abdi Fattah Yusuf, the jury heard evidence that he ran his home health care company, Promise Health, out of a mailbox at a Central Avenue address where multiple other home health care companies were supposedly located. Yusuf and his wife, Lol Ahmed, were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant, or PCA, scam. The couple allegedly spent tens of thousands of the fraud money on luxury items for themselves. Despite the jury swiftly convicting Yusuf, Judge Sarah West last week decided they got it wrong.
It's reversing or overturning a jury's verdict.
Defense attorney Joe Tamburino, who's not affiliated with this case, reviewed the decision and analyzed it for KARE 11 News. He says Judge West ruled that the state's case relied heavily on circumstantial evidence and that she believed the state did not rule out other reasonable inferences.
All right, so what does this look like? Activist judge overturns this ruling, saying there wasn't enough evidence and that it could have been another reason why this money went missing, even though the jury said, hey, there was enough evidence and this was guilty, which then leaves the state in a bit of a conundrum. Because now, as a precedent is set, this could be used as a linchpin to basically overturn other guilty verdicts in fraud cases in the state of Minnesota. And let me tell you, there is a lot of them. Minnesota being one of those flyover states, everybody's been ignoring it because we're this weird little blue state in a pocket of red, being surrounded by Wisconsin and Iowa and the Dakotas. Is sitting in the Midwest, even in a district that is occupied majority of right-leaning judges for the appellate and the district court levels. So very, very interesting. Now, this could get absolutely appealed and taken higher, and then the guilty verdict then reapplied. Certainly, but it's definitely going to put a hamper on things and then open up an avenue for other court cases to possibly be overturned in this state. So it's a bit of a mess. Now, further, which makes this interesting is that if anybody, and some of you watching the channel may be aware of this, especially if you own and run your own business. But in the state of Minnesota, and it's probably likewise, I would assume, for a lot of other states, now the Minnesota Secretary of State requires legally that when you file to own a business, you actually have to list a physical address for the business. You can't use a P.O. box, you can't use a virtual box, and it can't be just a mailbox with no physical location. And that's what makes this interesting, because this individual, I have to look up his name because I'll be honest, I have trouble with it. Abdi Fattah Yusuf, so I'm just going to call him Abdi for short. So Abdi here was running this business out of a mailbox in an office complex occupied by other healthcare businesses. And so there was no physical location for his business. So he is already violating those rules for business filings, which already is then showing that this is not a legitimate business off the bat, which is one of the things that the jury leaned on, that, hey, this is definitely a scam. This is definitely fraud that was being perpetuated. Okay. And now the fact that it's overturned, and we're seeing a lot of the judges in Minnesota now flip and say, like, hey, we are activist judges and we are absolutely going to protect this individual. And we're seeing that a lot more, with a lot of protection going to that Somali community. And I think the heat's going to start turning up in Minnesota, particularly now that the TPS, the temporary protective status for the Somali community, has been removed. And so this opens up a lot of angles, and which, frankly, I don't know how that's going to go. Because as I stated with our last video, certainly the Trump administration can go through with ICE and start deporting individuals. But the actual TPS portion of the Somali population is quite small, those under that protected status. You then have 80,000 of these individuals that are naturalized or U.S. citizens at this point. And so, well, what becomes of them? Well, the naturalized status actually can get legally removed, and there are avenues for that. But the big question is, because of the level of fraud being perpetuated in the state of Minnesota, particularly when it comes to marriage fraud, which is already being, has a magnifying glass going on it, fraudulent claims for marriage, and where you will actually have, say, a individual coming from Somalia, and he's married, and he brings his wife over, and then he brings over 4 other ladies with him. That turns out they're all his wife, all of his wives also, due to his, his ideology, is claiming them as direct family members, as sisters, or brothers for that matter, as we've seen with, say, Ilhan Omar, right? Marrying her brother to get him into the country. If you were fraudulently in the country and you faked your naturalization papers and your citizenship, you're going for citizenship, that would undo that. You're not here legally. So anyways, that's an interesting angle of that. But again, coming back to this fraud with Abdi, this is the direct ramifications of the Medicaid scam that's happening. Okay, so the big overall, the Medicaid scam, though, is the direct funding of terrorism, where Minnesota taxpayers are the #1 funder in the world for Al-Shabaab in Somalia, which is insane. Okay. But this individual running it for personal gain, and I wouldn't be surprised, because according to the documents from the actual trial itself, he only spent tens of thousands, which is of course hilarious. He only spent tens of thousands on luxury items, so Michael Kors and Nike and Canada Goose and all kinds of nice clothing and cars and the like, and was furnishing his life and for him and his family, and making their lives better at the expense of you, the Minnesota taxpayers, by overbilling Medicaid. But where is the rest of that money? I would not be surprised if it went into 2 different directions, both going back to Somalia, because we've already seen that Minnesota taxpayers, and specifically remittance payments from the Somali community going to Somalia, is funding 25% of their GDP. 25%. Somalia's gross domestic product is Minnesota taxpayer money. And I would then not be surprised then either if some of that $7.2 million is then getting funneled to Al-Shabaab. Because of course in that ideology too, they need to support their mujahideen. Okay, and they're seen as heroes for that matter. So that's what's happening with this current case in Minnesota. Certainly more to come, and we'll try to follow this as best we can. But as of right now, Judge West overturned that verdict, and now we have an interesting conundrum where could other fraud cases then be overturned based on this precedence? And certainly it's something that could definitely happen. Minnesota definitely turning into a hotbed of fraud and scandal, not even in just the Walz administration. Now you're looking at in the judicial branch for the state too, and the legislative branch. It's all 3 branches that we're seeing more and more issues crop up. So anyways, just wanted to talk about that for a little bit. Thanks for sticking around, and hey, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving with your families, and hope you bury some hatchets or just have a great time with your family. And just I hope you're all thankful for the things going on. Myself, I'm thankful for you guys for watching the channel. It's been really fun seeing this grow. It's certainly been interesting. Never thought we would kind of turn the direction on following news and everything, but apparently you guys want that stuff. So we still like guns, we still like firearms, and we're still a training organization and a security consulting firm. So we are still going to put out that information and put out videos on that, but we're going to keep bringing you news also, and especially for you locals here in Minnesota. So thanks for sticking around. Stay prepared, not scared. God bless and good night, everybody.